Okay, we're kind of ready to put this harp back together again, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's been done so far in the way of customizations. The first thing that we did together was to reshape the covers on this bottom edge, giving them a little bit of a curvature, and in order to do that we pounded down this edge so it wasn't 90 degrees anymore, and then we could just bend them open with the covers on the harp. That was something to increase the projection. You always want to do that with those covers on that harp. When you go to bend them open, you can pound them, of course, into shape with the cover off, protected with tape as shown in the video. Then the next thing we did was to sand this top surface absolutely flat. Then we went ahead and sanded the mouthpiece absolutely flat on the underside. And then we worked on the blanks and slide, and actually you can see that this is much smoother now on the bottom. We did that with lapping and with the Dremel tool polisher. This is the flat blank, and you can see it's no longer scored and is in much, much better condition. And our slide, again, is improved quite a bit as well. We did polish this a bit, and we polished out the two ends of this so it wouldn't cut into the bumper. They can be quite sharp, and we don't want that. So we've done all of that, and now we're ready to begin our rebuild. A lot of people get a little confused about how to put in a slide spring, and of course it goes through that slot from here. Of course, you see that kind of goes through like that, and the trick is, how do you get it around this peg down here? How do you do that? Well, the answer is you grab this free end here with a pair of needle nose pliers, and I think I can have you watch. It goes quite quickly if you're familiar with it. I'm going to grab the spring right here with the needle nose pliers, okay? You insert it through the hole, through the comb, come into position, and just drop it into position. Very quick. Now, but I'll tell you what, these springs come out sometimes, and when they come out, they're loaded, and they'll run a long way, and if they hit your eye, they can blind you. You always wear safety glasses when you're messing around with these parts. Now, of course, this harp's apart, so now I'm going to, once these reed plates go on, I won't have that risk anymore, and they're ready to go on now. Okay. Now, the other thing is that this originally had these things in the comb which would hold the cover off, but I've increased the tolerance and the comb covers are farther away now, so I'm not going to put those back in. So we're going to go ahead now, and I have, as you know, on the Swan, you have in the back and the sides are the big screws, and in the front are 4 small ones. So I'm just going to put one in and see if I can't get things aligned correctly where the harp is coming together and the parts are joining. And it is mated correctly now, and I'll put one over on this side. And you know, when I'm putting together a harp, I kind of take it easy, and I just look to make sure, is everything aligned perfectly? You know, sometimes that spring can go out of position, and you might, but you know, you take a look at the harp. Are the parts fitting tightly all the way along? Is it going together easy? Now I'm going to put all the screws into position and screw them all in, but if you've got something that doesn't fit, don't force any components on a harmonica at all. If you're getting resistance physically, something's out of position and you need to take it apart and try again, or whatever you're doing, you know, something like that. And so here we have all these nice screws. I've dropped them in. Then the front screws are smaller, the ones that go in the front. Now, not every harmonica has these. I think that's an advantage that Swan and East Top both do this, and I think it's a good idea because it gives the front of the comb a good lock. Now the other screws are in position. Now when I go to set a screwdriver, I always use my finger as a guide. I don't just start reaching. I take the finger and put it here, and that makes sure that screw, and I'm just bringing them in, not even snug, I'm just bringing these into position right now, and I'll tighten them later. So right now I'm just bringing these screws into position, and that's all I'm doing. having a little bit of trouble getting some of these to start. Some of them are starting pretty easily, and some of them are not. And so I'm going to have to find out what's the problem there. And I don't load any of them. They're not loaded yet. They're just very loose into position. Now, I don't normally have this problem. I've never faced it on a Harp before, but I have 2 screws in the back that did not start. This one and this one. So I'm just going to, let's see what's going on here. I can back off until I hear a click, and now it will go in, because that meant that the thread cleared. So that's one way to do it. Just back up, and when you hear the click, take it in. That's a bad screw there. That screw head is not good, and the screw is actually like half broken. So that's a bad part. Not that it matters, because it doesn't, but that would actually be a faulty part. Okay, in other words, the screw head itself was broken a little bit, but it will hold the reed plate. Forget parts on a Swan, you just kind of live with it. I have other screws I can use, and I can tap it, but I don't care. I'm just going to put it together. Okay, now what we want to do is snug up the parts, and I do this kind of this way. These screws were very loose from factory. I don't know why, but they were. I have good things to say about Swan overall. For the money we pay, we get a lot of Harp. I really am not a complainer about this company. I think it's actually for the buck a real great value. And here's our bad screw. But it still works. A third of it or a quarter of it broke right off the head. It was not there, but that wasn't why I was not going in. That was a different problem. And then I come in here to these one in the front and just, this is very light pressure. Gee, I don't know if I had to measure it. What is it? So many ounces even. It's just very light pressure. You don't have to make them super, super tight. Okay, now the smart thing to do is to always do a test to make sure that everybody's tight. So you just come around the Harp. Everybody just gets a final twist. Very gentle. Just to make sure that everybody is in here. Here's our bad screw. That's not a good screw. It's very difficult to work with it even. Oh well, a lot of things can go wrong and it'll work fine. Your car runs when the air conditioner's out. And if you lose your spare tire, then you can still drive it. Here's this and this. Okay. I'm just going to do a quick inspection of the reed windsaver's still on. They are. I think I can live with the way that these reeds are set for right now. I'm going to remove my safety glasses, and we're ready now to actually construct the Harp. When I construct an instrument, I'll try to put covers on, usually just to protect the Harp while I'm working on it. I would like to have the Harp protected just a little bit. So if I were to bang it, I'm not going to hurt the reeds. I always want to protect the reeds. And going ahead and just putting these screws back in here. Just loose. I'm not looking to do a final build here at this point. Just put this together here and this together here. I'll show you from the back what we're looking at a little bit. Very nice. Everybody came together. The parts are fitting correctly everywhere. There's no cover stanchion screws at the back. I'm going to go ahead and torque these down just a little more. And then I'm going to open these covers up just a little bit more at the back by pulling them open with my fingers. I do this by putting, like cloth of some kind like this, and just kind of manually pulling those covers open at the back gently. Nothing too hard. I don't want to break the metal. But metal has a memory, so if I bend them open tomorrow, I'll have to do this 4 or 5 times until it sticks. And by sticking, now you see what I mean? I have that nice bow on both sides and does it in a uniform manner. I work on wooden board often with a ring here. Okay, now what we have is we have our mouthpiece screws and we have 2 bumpers. These are quite large bumpers. There's quite a few things I like about Swan, these massive bumpers is one of the things I like. We're ready to rebuild. Now, you do not lubricate plastic. It doesn't need lubrication, but the underside of this flat blank does. So I'm going to come here and hit it with a small amount of slide oil and put this right into position. The next thing I do is more slide oil, and that's the slide's turn here. I'm going to hit it with just a little bit more oil because it is dry, and I want it to kind of break the harp in as I'm playing it. We put it in here. I come to here, and I put a little bit of slide oil on both sides and make sure I get it on this underside nicely. And I'm going to over oil just a hair because this harp is new to play. I'm going to come here and set that there and looking good. Everybody's lining up nicely. Okay, now are my parts seating? I have to take a look here and see, and not really the back end of this flat blank. There we go. Down she goes. Into position. Great. Okay, now we're getting ready to kind of think about putting the harp together. So I'm going to stand up to do this because I'm going to bring the end of the harp against an edge. That will enable me to kind of push some parts in a little bit, and then I'm going to construct this and get this ready to go. I'm going to put a small amount of slide oil on the underside of the mouthpiece just for fun, so it has some protection from slide on it. I'll go ahead and that's okay. We go here. Now I'm just putting the mouthpiece screws in, putting the bumpers in. There's a nice fit on the bumper, so it does keep those screws in. Very nice. We're all ready to go now. That and that and that. All that remains now is to put the pieces together and close it up. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press this in. And lay these parts together here. Sounding good. Very nice. And down comes the mouthpiece. Maybe slide in just a hair. Set the screw. Well, well, well. It's a very different instrument from when I started. Now is a good time to look around and to make sure that those 2 blanks are seated all the way around. And they are. So, everybody's cool. Listen to the slide now. Much quieter than it used to be. I'm going to bring this down just a hair to here. And bring this to here. And we're not done with the customization, but I'm going to cover the covers with a tape. But we are back together again. It still doesn't sound like a super expensive instrument in terms of, you know, what the slide sounds like, but it sounds better than it did. It's a lot less raspy. And I think we're ready for our sound test.